welcome back to Sarah Grace Cookie Company. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this cute little pink flower that is going to be one of the cookies we decorate in our floral masterclass that's coming up on May 26th. So I'm going to show you how to achieve this look with a cookie, and I'm also going to show you a few of the cookies that we're going to be doing in that masterclass. Hey Gina! So y'all, while I am sharing this video to our Cookie Confidence Facebook group, let me know where you're from in the comments and if you've ever tried making floral cookies before. Gina says pretty. Thank you so much, Gina. I love floral cookies. They're my obsession. Alright, I am sharing us over to the Cookie Confidence group. If you haven't already joined the Cookie Confidence group, it is a great place to learn how to decorate sugar cookies. I'm a little partial, but I think it is a really great place to learn. Alrighty, we are all shared and ready to go. Now I'll head back over here so I can see y'all's comments. Okay. Alrighty. Well, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna start by mixing our icing. I've got a fresh bowl of icing that I've made here, and that's one of the keys to making beautiful floral cookies like this. You've got to make your icing fresh. It's got to be kind of new and got lots of fluff and life to it, fresh out of the mixer, because if not, when icing sits for a long time, it can develop kind of like a different texture and it can change the consistency of it. So we're going to mix this icing together. This is my fresh bowl of icing, and I have a little pink bowl next to me. Of course, it's got to be pink. And I'm going to do a little bit of this light green color. So I'm going to mix my colors lightest to darkest. We're not going to need much of that light green, so I'm just going to do a tiny bit. And I like to mix yellow and black together to make green. You can do whatever you want to at home. You can try this with a different color combination. Maybe you have like a green that you really like. But I find that oftentimes the greens that come in the bottle already prepared can be a little bit too bright, too candy colored. So I'm going to grab one of these little butter knives that I have left over from my little boy's birthday party this weekend and add in a little bit of yellow food color and just the tiniest little drop of black. Now what I like to do when I'm mixing food coloring is take the spatula that I'm going to be stirring with and just add a tiny little drop to the spatula. That way you're not adding it directly into the bowl. And if you add too much, you can always take it off of that spatula before it goes into the bowl. But if you add too much into the bowl, there's not really any taking it out. So I'm just going to mix that until I have gotten to the green that I want. That's still just a little bit more yellow than I want it to be, so I'm going to add a bit more black to bring out more of that forest natural green color. Just another tiny drop onto the spatula. Because again, if we was to have a malfunction, those bottles, sometimes they want to let the icing, or the color out too quick. And when they do that, there is no going back if you've done it directly into the bowl. Okay, there is our green all mixed and ready to go. I'm going to grab a little cup and a tipless piping bag, which is not on my cookie part, but we can remove that. Here we go. I like the Cookie Cutter Kingdom tipless piping bags. Now, if you've never decorated cookies before, you may not know what I'm talking about when I say a tipless piping bag. But a tipless piping bag is what I like to use because it is designed to use without any kind of metal tip on it. You can insert a metal tip as you would with a regular disposable bag, but these are made specifically for icing like this. They're really easy to get ready and throw away as needed. All right. So since this is thick consistency, I don't really have to tie the top of the bag. Hi, Doris. It is going to be just fine on its own without being tied. So I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to start our pink icing. So I'm going to do just a little bit more for the pink because I like to have extra. And the green that we just mixed shouldn't affect the pink too much. I don't really worry about mixing a color like that after a lighter color. I'm going to do a little bit of this AmeriColor fuchsia. It's wanting to be a little bit stubborn on me today. I may have done too much. I just broke my rule that I told y'all. Never ever pour it directly into the bowl. Well, I poured it directly into the bowl. And I probably got it a little too dark. But I'm going to add some brown and a little bit of AmeriColor bright white to tone it down just a fuzz. You don't want too much because this does need to stay quite thick. This is going to be a little bit different color than the example I made, but that's okay. And when you're mixing food coloring and icing for florals, I like to not mix it completely up and leave a few streaks in it. I think that makes the icing and the flowers look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to use actually a disposable piping bag because for the flowers we're going to be using one of these metal tips like this. It's called a petal tip, and you can buy all different sizes, all different shapes of petal tips, but I've got several I'm going to show you today and show you kind of the different ways or the different looks you can achieve with different piping tips. So I'm going to pop this into a disposable bag, and you can see the difference here. These disposable bags are the kind that you can find at Walmart. These are your typical baking supply store disposable bags. And there's a big difference between those and tipless piping bags. So if you're trying Royal Icing for the first time and you've never used a tipless piping bag, I highly recommend them. They're so handy. But for our purposes today of making flour cookies, disposable bags work just fine. You can also use a tipless piping bag, whatever you want to do. But when you're flooding, those tipless ones are so handy. Alright, so next we're going to mix our dark green. When I'm making floral cookies, I love to have two different tones of greenery. I just find that it makes it so much more realistic. So I'm going to put a little bit more of this fresh icing into the bowl. And I'm mixing my colors lightest to darkest so that I don't have to wash this bowl in between colors, because y'all know I hate dishes. And I'm popping my lid back on my bowl so my icing doesn't get crusty. I have this KitchenAid mixer bowl, and I ordered a plastic lid from Amazon. Let's see. Hi, Yachty. And am I saying that right? Let's see. She says, what brand pink color? That was AmeriColor Fuchsia. Let me pull that bottle back out for you so you can see that, if I can find it. Of course it's going to hide out from me now. Let's see, that's ash. Here we go. AmeriColor Fuchsia. My bottle has seen better days, but that's what it is. Now I'm going to do the same technique that I did earlier with the yellow and black to achieve the green look. So I'm going to add in my yellow on my handy dandy little butter knife. And I'm going to use quite a bit more black this time because I want it to be a darker green. So I'm going to do a bigger squeeze of black. And we're going to make our dark green for our leaves. Ooh, isn't that pretty? I love that deep forest green look. And you can see that that pink isn't going to cause any issues. It's just going to blend right in. So no need to wash the bowl in between colors. Thank goodness. We don't need any more dishes today, do we, girls? Alright, so that's dark enough for me today. It's not exactly the same as what we'll be doing in class, but just for the sake of getting it done so y'all can go on about your day, we will call that green good. I'm grabbing another tipless piping bag. I like to use the tipless piping bags for my greenery because they're so easy to cut into the right shape. Sometimes the disposable bags, you can cut them in the same way. You're going to see what I'm talking about here in a minute. If you're completely lost and like, what is she talking about? Cutting them in different shapes. I thought that's what piping tips were for. You're going to see. I promise. It's going to make sense. Here we go. All right. So now we have green, pink, and light green all ready to go. Grab my scissors, that way I'm ready to cut. And I'm going to sit down at the table so I can decorate with you. Okay, here we go. So, we need a cookie. I'm using a cookie that's this shape from Sweet Silhouettes. I'm not sure what the name of the shape is. I'll have to look it up online for y'all. But I like to start with some of my greenery. So to make this greenery that you see kind of on the edge here, right here, these little things, I'm going to cut my tipless piping bag. And you can see the difference between this tipless bag and this disposable bag. They don't look that different, but this one is more smooth. The material is a bit thinner. This one has like some serious texture going on. It's a little bit more crinkly. The material's a bit thicker. And that just comes in really handy for making greenery like this. So when I was talking about cutting the bag, what I meant was we're going to cut this bag in a V shape. So you're putting your seam over here to the side and smoothing it out. And then you're going to cut your bag into this V shape. Now, you can make a little leaf shape with this by just wiggling and making the leaf. Or you can make some really interesting shapes just by turning it on its side. And I like to make some little, like, I call these succulent shapes, almost like a little aloe vera. And it looks like a different type of leaf or different type of greenery coming out from the cookie. You can also use this little sideways turn technique to do some teardrop type shapes where you just squeeze and pull back. And that creates another interesting shape. Squeeze and pull back, and just do that wherever you feel led to. Wherever you feel like it would be pretty, just go ahead and place a few little doodahs with your leaves. Maybe one leaf like this. I'm going to go back and add some more after I do the main flower portion. But this will be laid down before that. Yes, Yadi, I will share that Amazon link for the piping bags. Yadi said, is it possible to share the Amazon link for the piping bags? Absolutely. I'll put that in the comments below the video. So these are the piping tips that I ordered on Amazon. I didn't get like a brand name one. I just got these floral piping tips set because they look like they had some interesting shapes. This one is huge. They're all different sizes and shapes, and all of these different shapes will give you a little bit of a different look, and I'll show you in a minute the cookies that we'll be making in that workshop. That way you can kind of see some of the different shapes. But this is the one we're going to use for this particular flower. I'm going to grab another disposable piping bag, and I'm going to pop my piping tip into this empty bag. Then we're going to cut the tip off of this bag and slip it into here so that if one day when you're making flowers you want to kind of switch out bags, you can do that. That's my favorite way to bag icing for flowers because it allows you some flexibility and you can kind of switch and swap with your tips in your bags. Okay, so I'm just cutting a little hole in the top, placing my piping tip into the bag. Then I'm going to cut a nice wide tip off of my piping bag and slip it into the other piping bag. So if you wanted to make another color and do some different color flowers with this same piping tip, you absolutely could. I'm going to pull out my little cookie turntable. It has some gold luster dust on it, so just disregard that. These cookies are for family, so if they get a little gold luster dust on them, it won't hurt anything. It's probably just going to be my little boy eating them this evening when he gets home from Mimi's house. So the turntable really helps with the motion of making a flower cookie because you don't have to actually physically turn the cookie. I bought this one for maybe $6 on Amazon. It was really inexpensive, and I can provide you with a link for that as well. And I'm going to show you how to make these wide, long petals that go around this flower. This is a curved petal tip, so that's why you see this little turning up at the edge of the petal. I think that's so pretty. It just makes these beautiful little lacy petals. So when you're doing petals on a cookie, it's not like when you're doing petals on a nail. For example, when you're holding a nail like this and you're going over like that, your hand is kind of upright and going over. When you're doing cookie flower petals, your hand is almost parallel with the cookie, and the wide part of the tip is kind of setting close to the cookie, not completely on it so that it would dig into it, but close. So we're going to squeeze our bag, and we're just going to turn as we squeeze and wiggle. So I'm doing a little wiggle, 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 wiggle. If y'all are watching this in a public place, I bet you're getting some weird looks right now. This crazy lady saying wiggle, 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 wiggle. So I'm just going to continue that motion all around the cookie. I'm going to add another layer in between each of these different petals. You can kind of wiggle as you come around and plant it back down. And wiggle as you come around and plant it back down. And that's going to leave just a small space here in the center. And we're going to add a center to the cookie by making some small little dots with our next color. So our next color is this light green that we made a moment ago. I'm going to cut the tip of the piping bag. When I'm doing circles like this, I want it to be a nice even circle shape. So I'm going to find the seam in my tipless piping bag. You can feel it with your finger. Smooth it out and make a little snip at the top. That's about 1/4 inch. Squeeze all that down in there, and I like to give it a little base before I get started. Just a big squeeze, and then pipe my little small circles all around. And that's going to create the center of the flower. You just want some texture here. They don't have to be perfect circles. It doesn't have to be exact. You just want that little bit of texture. And if you want to be extra fancy, you can even come up onto the edge of these petals a bit. I think that looks really pretty and gives it a really realistic, natural look. That is completely up to you though. I've even seen people do some different colors for the center of their flower. You can really get creative with it. Okay. So now you can come back, you can add some extra little greenery around the side. You can be a little creative and decide where you want that greenery to go. I'm going to add just a couple more leaves by squeezing and wiggling back and forth. I think that pretty much does it on the leaves. I'm really happy with how that looks. I'm going to add one more right here. Okay. So that is how you make this royal icing flower with the greenery on the side, the nice turned up petals that kind of have that lacy look. Hey Chelsea. Doesn't that look cute, y'all? happy with how that turned out. And while I've got you on the live video, I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the flowers that we're going to be making in our Royal Icing Floral Cookie Masterclass. So that was just a little taste of what the Masterclass is going to be like. I'm also going to be showing you how to make some smaller cookie bouquet designs like this. So using the tips that I just showed you, and really any piping metal floral petal tip that you can find. You can use ones that you already have at home and kind of adapt your designs to whatever you have. But I'll be showing you how to make some different size flowers, flowers from different angles, some other types of greenery and shapes and things like that. So that's one of the designs. Here are some more little roses. I'll show you how to do those cute little toothpick roses that you can make I love seeing these on plaque cookies. They're so pretty. Okay. Michelle said she'd like to see the V in the tipless piping bag again. I'll go back over that with this lighter green. I'll show you how to do that again. So we'll be learning how to do some of these cute little toothpick roses and these bigger roses as well. Here is a larger flower, and I'm also going to do a couple on just plain circles because when I started out, I didn't have very many flower cutters like this that had the space for greenery, so I would just use circles, and I'm going to show you how to do that without the need for any big flower cookies. We're also going to be learning how to make the really big fluffy petals, but this flower kind of got destroyed in the process of moving it from one tray to another, so just focus on these pretty ones. This is my pecan pie sugar cookie recipe as well. That's going to be coming out in a YouTube video in a week or two, so be on the lookout for that. All right, Michelle, you said you wanted to see the V shape on the tipless piping bag again. So here's my tipless piping bag. You'll want to find the seam, and when you find that seam, you'll want to make sure that the seam is on the side. Now that you've got your seam on the side, you want to smooth it out and cut a V shape. So the V is going to be facing outward like this, and the tip of the V will be at the tip of the bag. So cut from one side, then another. Okay? And that is your V shape. And you can use that to make cute little leaves like this one. So you'll place that facing the cookie, squeeze, and wiggle back and forth to make a leaf shape. And you can make these as big or as small as you want. You can do a little tiny leaf like this, or you can squeeze really tight and do a huge leaf like that. So you can control the shape and size of the leaves you make just by how hard you squeeze, how big you cut the V. You can control how much of this little pattern they have in them by how much you wiggle back and forth. I really like these cute lacy leaf shapes, but it's up to you how lacy and how big you want to make them. Liana says, yay, so glad I made it to one on time. I'm so glad you're here too, Liana. It's good to see you. Y'all, thank y'all so much for joining me today. If you're interested in the flower masterclass that we're going to be having on May 26th of this month, that'll be at 6 p.m. Central. That's on a Wednesday. You are welcome to come to that one live. I love to have you on the Zoom with me. I feel like it helps me give you feedback and kind of learn what you need to hear from me. I kind of adjust my teaching as we go. But if you're not able to make it to that live video, you can always join us for the replay. I promised you last time that the replay would be available immediately, but turns out it takes quite a while for Zoom to process that. So if you're not able to watch the replay immediately on Wednesday night, the 26th, then it will definitely be available. If not the next day, then the following day. Sometimes it takes just a minute to get it uploaded. So the replay will be available, and if you purchase the class, you'll have lifetime access to the replay. You can also get this class by becoming a member in the SG Cookie Academy, and you'll have access to all the previous classes that we've done, like Consistency Confidence, cookie calligraphy, the writing on cookies class, all of those. You'll have access to all of those and the cookie coaching that we do every single month. So if you're interested in any of that, you can go to my website, sarahgracecookieco.com, or you can click the link in the description of this video. And y'all, you wanted me to link the tipless piping bags, and I'll go ahead and link the fuchsia food coloring that we used as well. That way, is there any other links y'all wanted me to include? Do y'all want my royal icing recipe? I feel like that's an important link. That's on my website as well. If you go to free resources up at the top, you will see my recipe. And I think it's on that very first page. If you go to sarahgracecookieco.com, you'll see a little link in there to get my recipe. So check out that floral class. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited to see y'all, and y'all have a great rest of the day. Thank y'all so much. Bye-bye. Oh, thank you, Michelle. Michelle says your work is beautiful. You are so sweet.